Alright, so welcome to Total War Warhammer 2. This is KT Vindicare, and I'm going to be going over every single change that was made to Bretonnia in the new update. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation about some of the things. Like I was reading in like a couple of other streamers' chats about a lot of confusion about what was actually changed to Bretonnia. And the answer is not that much, but some of the changes are actually pretty significant. So let's start with the vow system update. So we got our Lord Vindicare over here, and we can show you the new vow system, how it works. I think before I get there, the actual stats and skills of your lords has not changed basically at all. Like irrepressible spirit is like I think a new thing. I forget what it would have replaced, but it's only a replenishment buff for your lord. Bretonnia was not given any replenishment buffs for their armies. That was something that was highly expected in this update that just did not happen. So for the most part, your abilities are still pretty similar to what they were before the update for your generic lords. Now, the vow system, I think, is pretty cool. So, instead of just having a generic skill up here that you just unlock by different levels, instead, you have a choice of task. And the task will also give you bonuses to your lord or to your army. So we can see here that Vindicare has both his Knight's Vow and his Questing Vow. The Knight's Vow was a pledge to order. He just needed to be present in regions as buildings were completed, which was easy to do enough in the early game. The questing vow for him was that he had to pledge to Manon being the elven sea goddess. And I just had to win a battle at sea with him, which I did. It was one of those neutral, like, Vampire Coast battles. That counted, so now he has the questing vow, which does what it used to. It reduces the upkeep of questing knights, but it also provides armor-piercing damage for the Lord and also additional campaign movement range, which, considering I'm playing as Lewin Leon Kerr, means that I have an additional 20% campaign movement range, which is awesome. Awesome for the campaign. So finally, this Lord here is working on his Grail Vow, which wants me to kill 5 enemy lords in battle. My other options were that I could kill a legendary lord from Chaos, which I can't do at this portion in the campaign because Chaos hasn't spawned yet. And I think the other one was to raise 5 major settlements, which is obviously a much bigger deal because most of the time you want to be capturing those settlements in the first place. And other times, like, it's major settlements, not minor. So I figured this was by far the easiest one to do. So that's what's going on with the vow system. You basically have a choice for each of your lords and your heroes for different ones. So you'll see that they pop up here. So this is Aldahard the Devoted. I have not actually made a questing vow for him, mostly because I'm not really using him at the moment. But you can see here that my options are to campaign, which is to win in a desert or a jungle climate region, which is really far away. Pledge to Manan, win a single sea battle. That's the easiest one by far. The other one is to defeat a Greenskin or Dark Elf Legendary Lord or a Beastman Legendary Lord. There isn't much of a Beastman presence on the map, and the closest Greenskin Lord would be down in the Badlands. So Pledge to Manan is definitely the easiest one. So that's the one I'm going to be selecting for him. But you can make it more difficult on yourself if you want. Bretonnia is obviously a great faction to roleplay with, and these vows have a lot of roleplay elements to them. Now, the other big change that was made concerns Bretonnian cities. So we're going to start with Corone. Now, Corone resembles Altdorf now in terms of what it does. It gives you the base generation of income, but as far as I remember, and I might be wrong about this additional income to buildings in adjacent provinces and buildings in the region, that's new. That came in with the update, and I'm pretty sure that it is new because I also noticed that the income that you get from the Corone Tournament Grounds was reduced from 1,200 to 1,000 income, if I'm remembering this correctly. Which means that, like, it's going to get an additional 50% from the level 5 structure, which means that this one building is going to be producing 1,500 income. It also means that At max level, it gives 25% buildings in adjacent provinces. That includes Marienburg. Marienburg with the super powerful 2,000 income generated by port. That is just, and then you have that stacked on with Alberic's Yield of the Sea perk that he has, and you get a lot of money from Marienburg. Marienburg's making 1704 right now, and it's going to be getting an additional 1,000 income when I upgrade this. So, some cool stuff there with just Corone. It doesn't really affect the other Bretonian settlements, but it does affect if you're playing Bretonnia the way that I am right now. Now, the other thing that is probably the biggest and most impactful change for the whole campaign is the rework to garrisons in minor and major settlements. If you've played a few Bretonnian campaigns, these foot squires stick out. That you never used to get foot squires in your base garrison. So it's pretty awesome now. Like, the garrisons for the Bretonnian structures are much better, which means that you don't necessarily need to be putting these garrison buildings in each one of your settlements, especially since Bretonnia is the only faction that I know of that gets their walls automatically at level 3. But they also have a bunch of other stuff they need to worry about with farms and windmills and all that nonsense. So that's a nice quality of life buff to have stronger garrisons at your building. Like the Forest of Ardennes here, for example. That's a pretty nice, significant garrison, and I didn't build additional walls or anything. Meanwhile, Gisero, look at that garrison. That's awesome. So that's a really nice quality of life buff for Bretonnia, because their garrisons prior to this update were laughably weak, and so this gives them a lot more flexibility with how they want to expand out on the map. Another rework to settlements is the changing up of the armory. Now, the armory used to be required basically everywhere if you wanted to build foot squires. That's not necessary anymore. The armory is not a required building for any infantry or cavalry unit. I mean, I think. Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure that none of these guys now require armories anymore to be built. Yeah, it's just straight tech structure. You still need a level 4 to get foot squires, so you still need a major settlement for them, but you don't need to have an armory anymore also, which is a free building slot for a lot of different places. So the armory now is purely for its own benefit. So what does the armory do? Well, the smithy gives construction cost reduction in the local region, which is nice, but it also provides additional armor and melee defense for any army that's defending. So again, with the garrisons, not only are the garrisons themselves improved, but these smithies and armories are going to be useful in helping you defend your province without having to have a major army in the area. And so the armory also does provide global recruitment capacity, which Bretonnia is really good at anyway, because they're able to get local recruitment capacity from windmills and water wheels. So it helps to make up a lot for the lack of replenishment buffs. You could just retrain and re-recruit new units for Bretonnia, and that's mostly the way that you have to play, because you can't really rely on replenishment buffs the way that you used to. The other addition, and I'm sure this is an addition to other factions too, but I haven't played another faction since the update dropped, is the addition of this brand new structure called the Night Watch. This building is just for the Skaven Under Empire buildings. It helps improve the discoverability. However, look at that control bonus right there. Minus 50% penalty due to presence or lack of corruption, which is something that used to only be available on the one really powerful landmark building in the ancient city of Quintex. I haven't checked out the other factions yet, but I'm going to make the assumption that a building like this is going to be existing for most factions to counter the new Under Empire mechanic, which I think is a lot of fun. We do have a brand new structure, landmark structure over here at Bordello. It is called the Shrine of Manan, and this is just a single building that provides all kinds of different things here. It provides a garrison of foot squires, which is really nice. It unlocks the recruitment of foot squires, so you don't need to build a level 4 barracks in this area in order for you to use it. It also provides untainted and adjacent regions. So this is a really nice level 3 landmark building. And considering that it's also going next to the Bordello wine market, it just makes Bordello that much better of a settlement. Because now Bordello's got 3 different really good landmarks at it. all of them are big improved, like just the fact that Bordello is like one of the main capitals. So while Corone got all those nice buffs to the way that it improves the economy of everything around it, and it also gets that really strong base garrison like a lot of faction capitals do, now Bordello is able to keep up a little bit. It's still a very strong settlement. We have a brand new settlement here located in the middle of Paravon, and this is a single orc provincial capital, and it is owned by the Skull Takers. And actually this is a provincial capital in the proper sense, in that they don't need to build walls here to have a larger garrison than normal for a major settlement. So it's a second run-in with the orcs, but it also gives you the ability to shut down that greenskin incursion in the early game if you want to, for both the Fey Enchantress and for Alberic, because this location is very close. It is a mountain region, so it does have that unpleasant climate when playing Bretonnia, but it also makes it a nice extra province for orcs and for greenskin, or not greenskins, that's their orcs, Skaven and dwarves and everyone else that likes mountain climate. There's a brand new settlement over here that has a fair number of building slots, 8 building slots, and you can just issue an edict just by capturing it. So that's a cool addition, and may I say, I think the addition of these mountains right here looks awesome. Just think it looks great. So the last thing that was touched on in this update is the changes to the Bretonnian tech tree. Now, these changes aren't that large on paper, but they do have some pretty significant improvements. So let's start with the heraldries. Now, these are pretty much the same as they were before. They operate pretty much exactly the same way that they used to. What has changed about it is that when you complete the research of one of these heraldries, you'll get one of those prompts that gives you a choice of a couple of different ways to confederate with whatever dukedom you researched. You can confederate with them right away for a hefty chivalry penalty of 50 chivalry, which is a lot in the early game. Chivalry obviously being the main currency that you need in order to actually win your campaign. Before a chivalry penalty, you can force them to bend the knee and serve under your leadership. So that's one way to do it. If you have a significant amount of funds laying around, we're talking like around 5,000 to 7,000 funds, when you complete one of these, you're able to buy their loyalty as well. If you choose none of those options, then the Confederation works pretty much the way that it used to before. You still have to have a significantly stronger economy than them, or army than them. They need to like you a lot, which is what the diplomatic relations are for. But you don't get to just confederate with them right away. There's other things that need to go into it. So the only thing that's really changed, aside from that prompt, which I think is great, like if I want to force the dukedom to bend the knee, I can, is that the unification of Bretonnia is different. Now, what this used to do is that it used to provide you a diplomacy bonus with all dwarven and human empire factions. It doesn't do that anymore. Instead, it provides 10 additional peasants for your faction, which I think is it's kind of a trade-off. I'm not really sure which one of those I think is stronger, but what they ended up doing was they added more of those diplomacy options over here to this right-hand side. So these diplomacy options only require the chivalric code, so you're able to actually get overseas diplomacy or the religious errantry one before completing all of these other ones, which is something they were locked behind in the previous tech tree. So you can see that all the other ones are here, but you've got some new ones here, and a couple of these are really helpful. The Lords of Athelloran diplomacy. Yo, Bretonnia, you no longer need to constantly be dealing with war with the Wood Elves, which I know from experience is one of the most frustrating parts of playing Bretonnia. No, if you research this, you'll be able to keep the Wood Elves off your back. And as you can see from my current relations here with the Wood Elves, they are green status with all of them, that technology being a primary reason why, and there's no reason for them to start a war with me. So I can actually play this campaign without having to go to the Vietnam post-traumatic stress-inducing forest that is Athelloran every single campaign. That is a wonderful quality of life buff, something you'll only understand if you've played multiple Bretonnian campaigns. So looking back at the tech tree some more, the decrees have just been moved down here, but they're all still the same. I think they've actually been reduced, but I've also got a 160 research rate going, so, but these are all pretty much the same. They do what they did before. Provide you chivalry bonuses for destroying or winning battles against different evil factions. You still do have the option of taking the diplomatic relations penalty against the Wood Elves, which is different than what it was before. It used to be before that, like, you know, you only had the option of, you know, declaring war on the Wood Elves, but now you're actually able to be cooperative with them if you want. Instead of the diplomatic relations being tied to the unification of Bretonnia, now you've just got 2 more additional diplomacy options for the Empire factions and the Dwarven realms. This one's a brand new one, though. This is diplomatic relations with Tomb Kings. Now, I think this is kind of a waste because you get a diplomacy bonus for having great power. So the Tomb Kings are already really easy to negotiate with. But if you want that extra 50 diplomatic relations, I guess now you got the option to do that. I think that is it in terms of changes to the tech tree. I mean, everything's been reorganized a little bit, but I don't see anything here that stands out as new from what was available in the prior to this current patch. So I think that just about covers it. Otherwise, I'm trying to just cross off my T's and everything. Oh, you did get some different chivalry bonuses too, but this is in the patch notes. The big one is that once you get beyond 1600 chivalry, you can call the Green Knight as many times as you want, which I think is a nice quality of life thing, because that just means that I'm going to be able to use the Green Knight consistently, not having to worry about whether this is the right time to be using him or whatever. I haven't even used him so far in this campaign, and as you can see, it's already doing pretty well. At the moment, Skaven Blight is controlled by Estalia, which I think is weird. Actually, the campaign AI has been noticeably different compared to my previous campaigns. As you can see, the Empire actually controls the Empire. It's not covered in vampires. The Horde faction of random greenskins is actually causing some trouble. But everyone seems a lot more passive than they used to be, which I don't know if that is like an intended change or not, but it's made this campaign feel a lot easier compared to my previous Bretonnian campaigns. But this is probably my 5th or 6th Bretonnian campaign, so that could have something to do with it. Well, alright, so if you guys have any questions, this is mostly just a stream so that I can record this later to YouTube, but if you guys have any questions for me, drop me a comment on this video, leave me a like. I'm still going to be doing my video game content, but I do plan on starting my regular podcast at the end of this month. But obviously I will try to continue putting out Total War content in the meantime. So with all that being said, thank you guys. This is KT Vindicare. Have a nice day.